have you ever had a sibling that got away with it? Or were you the sibling that got away with it? Yeah, I'm sure some of you were. There are times in my life that I thought I got away with it, but I'll tell you what, there's some things that people do that drive me nuts. The more than 10 items people drive me nuts. You know, and they get away with it. The checker's never like, I'm sorry, sir, ma'am. Yeah, take that cart over. And then you're there, you know, usually I'm juggling. If you have 10 items, you can hold them and you're trying to keep, anyway. I'm not going to have an imprecatory psalm against them, but they're kind of deserving. Or people who drive like maniacs and you get pulled over. Somebody blows past you. There is some satisfaction. One of the greatest things in life, though, is when someone blows past you and you go to the next corner and they're pulled over. There's this little evil part of us that takes joy in that. I think well, this is very personal, so I hope you can. I'm jealous of my dog. My dog gets away with it all the time, and she knows it. There are times that I'll be like, don't get on my. We gave up the don't get on the furniture thing a long time ago with Ginny. Now she has done this thing. Every time I stand up I have my chair. Every time I get up from my chair, she immediately jumps in it and smirks at me. And there's somebody in the house who was like, oh, don't be mean to her. I'm not saying who that is. I think one of my favorite stories of not getting away with it is my parents, my mom and dad. When I went away to college, everything just went crazy. So my brother and I were raised, I think, by two different people. And then my sisters are 6 and 9 years younger than me. So when I came home from college, there was sugar cereal. You've heard me tell you that before. I had like a dry mattress was the only cereal, like the filling from a mattress. Those old shredded wheats that were huge, and grape nuts, so painful cereal. I came home and there was sugar lumps and honey cereal in the fridge. But the worst was, growing up, we could not go to movies. Going to the movie theater, and then it was a slippery slope because then we got a VCR. And so while we were gone, my parents decided to go to a movie. My mom's an English major, English teacher, and the Mel Gibson Shakespeare, there was a Shakespeare movie that came out, Hamlet. And they decided, so they drove to another town and went into the movie theater in the afternoon, completely empty, and 3 rows in front of them was a youth pastor from one of the other churches in the denomination, who turned around and said, it's the Baptist police. We've been caught.
Baptist and Boise go to Nampa.
Yeah, right, they're going out to Meridian or something like that. But we see this all the time. People just seem to get away with it. I heard recently there was a list of CEOs from massive companies who had, under their watch, had laid people off, had hurt the environment, had seen people die because of and injured because of their products and the lack of concern for safety and the profit motive and cutting corners. And they had been fined by the government, and they finally resigned and had $1 million severance packages. While the people that they laid off to make money were laid off with no severance at all. And this list, how do they get away with it? We want satisfaction. So many shows, so many movies, so many stories are about that somebody who seems like they're getting away with it. And we love them because usually at the end of those, for a satisfying conclusion, they get caught. They get theirs. And usually that looks like revenge. But God's justice is not revenge. Today we're going to talk about the perspective of justice. God's justice. So our first point is, from our perspective, here's what we shout: there is no justice. The first verse, oh Lord, why do you stand so far away? Why do you hide when I'm in trouble? It seems like God is indifferent. It seems like God is distant, like God is avoiding me when I'm in pain. He doesn't seem to notice or care to do anything when my life is tough. And then I look around And the author of this poem, the author of this psalm, looks around and is like, not only are you ignoring me, but you're blessing the wrong people. The wicked arrogantly hunt down the poor. Let them be caught in the evil plans for others. They brag about their evil desires. They praise the greedy and curse the Lord. The wicked are too proud to seek God. They seem to think that God is dead. Yet they succeed in everything they do. They do not see your punishment awaiting for them. They sneer at their enemies. They think nothing bad will ever happen to us. We will be free of trouble forever. Their mouths are full of cursing and lies and threats. Trouble and evil are on the tips of their tongues. They lurk in ambush in the villages, waiting to murder innocent people. They're always searching for a helpless victim. The lions, like lions crouching and hiding, they wait to pounce on the helpless. Like hunters, they capture the helpless and drag them away with nets. The helpless victims are crushed. They fall beneath the strength of the wicked, and the wicked think, God isn't watching us. He's closed his eyes and he won't even see what we do. I asked Sherry to read a slightly different translation, but it is powerful. Both of those translations describe that feeling of seeing somebody get away with it. And not just get away with something petty, but crushing people. So we wonder, why is God ignoring us? Why do bad things happen to good people? You know, good people like me. And people like me. That's not the deal we had, God, right? I'm a good person, so I'm supposed to have a good life. And even worse than that, good things keep happening to bad people. You know, people not like me. They get wealth and power and victory and escape. I want to make a point here as we go on. We're going to talk about this, but I want to define the wicked first. How is the wicked defined in this? But when I think of wicked people, I tend to think of people who do bad things. They break the laws, they break the rules, they do the sins, violate the law. And yeah, it's true, but this is a little deeper. In this poem, in this song, the wicked are clearly defined as those who do not follow the most important foundational law of God in the Old and the New Testament for all time, that is to love God and love people. They are wicked not because they're doing sins. They are wicked because they don't love God and they hate people. They use people. They make strategies in the first couple, in verses 2 and 3. They make strategies to victimize the poor and the weak. They brag about the way they won and how they pulled it over on them and how they bullied and got their way and got away with it. They even boast about what schemes they're going to do next. Hey, not only did this loser fall for it, we got a better one coming up. A wicked person worships greed, mocks God, and mocks others, especially losers and those weaker than themselves. The wicked see life. They see other people as something to be used. They see life, they live a wicked life because they've prospered and got away with it. They assume God is dead or just doesn't care. What's he done lately? They depend only on themselves, and whatever they want to do, whatever they can do to get ahead is okay. They see life and only in terms of the here and now, short term and the immediate future, and it always seems to work out for them. Because nothing bad has happened yet, nothing bad will ever happen to them. Woohoo! That's how they see life. The problem is, that's also how the poet sees life, the writer of the song. They begin to kind of agree, God, it's going to be this way forever. Why are they getting away with it? We begin to kind of agree. They mock God, they mock the good, and they disrespect those trying to help. Those who try to follow God. And what's on the inside begins to come out: curses and denigration of anyone that they don't like, denigration of anyone that is not like them, that don't like them, and that are not useful to them, in order to puff themselves up, in order to brag and tear down others. Life is a competition that they think they win when they get away with it. That's how the wicked view each of you other people, primarily as victims to exploit. They are predators, like a lion looking for something to destroy and consume. And they especially, wicked people especially love somebody weaker than them. Somebody who's in crisis. Somebody who's got a problem. Somebody who can't defend themselves. They love that because they can take advantage. It's an easy mark. Anyone who is at a hard time and does not have the ability or the resources to defend themselves are fair game to add to the wicked's wealth, power, and ease. And it's all right in front of us. And it's all right in front of God. And he must not be watching, or he just doesn't care about their evil. And he just doesn't care especially about my piety compared to it. The poet feels like he's one of the victims because the world is overwhelmed by those who are using others and hurting the weak and ignoring God, and God just lets it happen. That phrase at the end really struck me, that they are crushed. They are crushed beneath the weight of the wicked. Just that helpless feeling, being crushed. So remember, what defines the wicked is not what rules they've broken. Sometimes we use that as a way to crush people. They've broken what we think are the rules, and we begin to act the same way. So let's make sure we're not acting like the wicked. As we look at this list, as we look at what they do, let's make sure that we don't act like that we use people, that we manipulate, that we profit off their need and their weakness, even if it's for a good reason. Even if it's to get them into church. Or even if it's to save them from themselves. Let's make sure that our motive is not to use and manipulate the oppressed. One of the hardest things is when I see marketing, Christian marketing. Pictures of them doing virtuous things. And the poor and the needy and the marginalized are props. Let's make sure that we don't emulate the wicked. Maybe we don't break the rules on the list, but let's not be people who use others in their weakness for our own ambition, not just profit, but our own egos. The wicked think that God won't ever bug them, that he's irrelevant, and we think God won't ever touch them either. So we cry out. Point 2 is our plea is punish them. Punish them. Arise, O Lord, punish the wicked, O God. Do not ignore the helpless. Why do the wicked get away with despising God? They think God will never call us to account. But you see the trouble and grief they cause. You take note of it and punish them. The helpless put their trust in you. You defend the orphans. Break the arms of these wicked, evil people. Go after them until the last one is destroyed. There's some raw emotion in that paragraph. When we feel and when we see the weak getting hurt by the strong, it should make us angry. It should make us cry out. It's okay to yell and to yearn for justice because God is just and God loves justice. Even when we don't think he does. Even when his version of justice is not our version of justice. We often just want revenge, or sometimes we want, a pale version of justice called fairness. Fairness is important. It's important to be fair, but justice is so much more than that. My justice is about me and mine getting a fair shake so that I can get what I want. And sometimes a sadistic pleasure of seeing somebody else get got. That's not what God's justice is for. The rest of this, I love this. We call out for God to get them, to punish them and hold them accountable. But by doing this, God, you are showing that I'm right to be pious. No, that's not what he says. I love that the psalmist kind of works himself to such a good answer. By holding the wicked to account, God is showing the weak, the victim, the vulnerable, the powerless, the poor, the orphan, the infirm, the widow, those who play fair and care for others, the grieving, the lonely, and the helpless, that God remembers them. God's justice is showing that he cares for those who cannot care for themselves. What is most of this poem about? God, don't you see me? The real underlying message is, don't you see me? Don't you remember me? Did you forget about me? And God is saying, no. There is a felt call for justice, not a discussion. This poem isn't a discussion of the philosophy of justice. I think this is God's perspective on justice. It isn't some theology or doctrine. It's not even a call for fair treatment. Thank goodness, because we've all sinned, right? We all have some wickedness in us. But for those to be reassured that God remembers us and loves us. So the wicked, the exploiters, and the God ignorers think they have escaped justice and got away with it. But, and this is the Arrested Development narrator voice, but they did not get away with it. They did not get away with it. This is a powerful thought that God sees it. God assures us he does see it. He does see what the wicked have gotten away with. And says that's not what's really happening. He really does know and care. And the helpless have chosen the right place to put their faith. The oppressed have chosen the right place to put their hope. Rather than schemes, rather than manipulation, rather than trying to figure out a way to dig themselves out of it, they've put their hope in God. And there will be rescue, there will be justice. Maybe not in our sight or our understanding, but it is there. Because God is there, and his vision of right is better than ours. What's God's perspective of justice in this passage, I think, is that it's protection. Protection. Why does God punish the evil, the wicked? Because then they can't hurt the oppressed. The Lord is king forever and ever. The godless nations will vanish from the land. Lord, you know the hopes of the helpless. Surely you will hear their cries and comfort them. You will bring justice to the orphans and the oppressed, so mere people can no longer terrify them. One of the jarring things about being a parent, when you're having a great sleep, you are out, and you hear a kid have a nightmare. They come running into the room, or they're sitting in their bed and you run in there, and they are terrified. And the moment that you can wrap them up, whisper, speak calmly, and calm them down, and see them go back to sleep. This is the image that I have here. That God's punishing the wicked is not about revenge. It's about finally saying, you know what, enough. You cannot hurt my people anymore. God, the loving God, is the God who cares and will show himself and vindicate himself. God is God, like we talked about last week. He is the Lord, and he loves and is strong enough and knowledgeable enough to judge correctly in perfect timing. He wants to rescue the weak. Even more, he wants to redeem the wicked. He will judge the wicked. But that's almost an afterthought to the main point. The main point is he hears the cries of the oppressed and the hurting and the weak and the helpless and the hopeless, and he will comfort them. What is causing the rage? As this psalm goes through, what is causing the anger? Yes, they're angry that the wicked just seems doing good, but the real problem is God, and you've also, in the middle of that, you've forgotten what I need. And God will comfort them. I think that's what we really want. Sure, we'd love to see some evil vanquished. But what is far better is to be forgiven and loved and understood and to know and to feel the comfort of the Lord. So God carries out justice to protect people from the wicked who want to hurt them. Not so that we can stand back and revel in revenge, but so that the oppressed will be safe and no longer terrified. This should comfort us. Have you ever been rescued? Have you ever come through a crisis and that feeling of relief when it's over? Deb and I went through the Northridge earthquake. I was the dorm dad at a college. And the quake hit and all of the chaos in the middle of that. And had to evacuate the dorms and get everyone down to the field. And then there was a gas leak and it was a crazy few days. And at the end of that, for almost a month, we'd have aftershocks. And there were a few guys in our dorm that every time there was an aftershock, some big, tall, athletic guys would come down to our door and go, "Oh yeah, I just wanted to check on you to make sure you're okay, and can I stay here for a while?" The relief of being scared, is that going to happen again? They were terrified. And we had the opportunity to comfort them, give them a snack. "Here's a cookie, you can sit over here." "Okay, thank you." I was thinking of times when I was relieved when God rescued me. We were driving back from Deb's sister's wedding on the I-5 with a carload of people. And it was raining, and the car in front of us spun out and was spinning across the freeway. And I am the greatest driver in the history of the world. Literally Jesus took the wheel. Because we just were able, and I remember me swerving, and their car was pointed the other way and looking over at that other driver as they were panicked, and we kind of spun together, and I ended up on the right way and just went on our way. God protected us. I will tell you what, that was better than, to get me home safe, that was better than double espresso. It woke me up. And the relief that came after that of knowing we could have died, but we didn't. That's the ceiling. That's the safe feeling. That's that feeling that God says, "Hey, my justice is better, and my justice is coming, and my justice is not about punishment of them. My justice is about loving you, caring for the oppressed. And if I have to punish, that's the purpose, is to stop somebody from hurting those who can't defend themselves." So what do we do about it? What does this change for us as we look at this? First, I've seen the people who are wicked. I've seen the people who are wicked, and they are us. I can act like God doesn't exist, or God doesn't care, or God doesn't see, and I can treat people wrongly and unlovingly and act as a judge. I can use and manipulate and think I've gotten away with it. And I need to remember that I'm not better, but God is better, and follow his rule to love God and love others. I need to make sure that I don't act like the wicked. And remember, not God sees everything so that I feel guilt, but remember that God has a better plan, and his best plan is for me to love somebody. We need to remember that God is there. Where is God? That thing, where is God? Why is he avoiding me? He is right where he should be and right where he always has been. He sees and he still loves and he cares. Remembering that builds my faith. That gives me hope to remember that there is a God who is and he loves and he cares. And then we need to care about what God cares about. We need to care about who God cares about. The orphan, and the widow, and the weak, and the ill, and the depressed, and the addicted, and the lost, and the lonely, and the marginalized, and the poor, and the other. Not to convert, not to use, not to make ourselves feel superior, but just because they're lovely. Let's care about the people that God cares about. And to help us at our rage, when I need to remember this, I need to practice this better, to help when I am so angry that the wicked are being blessed. The best antidote to that is to go find one of those oppressed people and help them. The best antidote to that anger and that desire for revenge is to then go actively help somebody in one of those categories. Somebody who is less, somebody who needs help, somebody who is helpless. And remember what God's justice is about. Is loving the weak and giving hope to the hopeless. So we'll leave with this. Psalm 9 is kind of the companion to this. In your readings this week, I have you reading Psalm 9 and 10. Some scholars, I kept reading in every book I read about this, some scholars believe one time they were one psalm. So I'm not sure why God got split up, but we're going to read 9 and 10 this week. But Psalm 9 and 10 says this: "The Lord is a shelter for the oppressed, a refuge in times of trouble. Those who know your name trust in you, for you, O Lord, do not abandon those who search for you." May we be a people who call out to God for true justice, for ourselves and all people, and work to bring God's care and love to the oppressed and the weak, the poor, and all those who are in need. Thank you very much. Have a great Sunday. It looks like there might be some sun coming out. So we'll see you next week.